It all started in my late college years, in the middle of the summer transition between my junior and senior years, when a couple of my friends invited me out to do a hike on a weekend. I've never hiked before, so I thought, why not? It'd be a good way to get out into the sun and enjoy some nature. And I didn't think much of hiking in general, at least back then. I always thought of it as some sort of walk in the park, some easy breezy walk. But boy, oh boy, did I underestimate the difficulties of hiking immensely. Now, keep in mind, during my college years, I wasn't the most in shape person, but I wasn't super out of shape either. I'd hit the gym about 4 to 5 times a week to mainly lift weights. And there was a long stint where I'd grapple and wrestle with a group of friends, and we'd pretty much just give each other hand jobs and finger each other while in the 69 position for like a whole hour or until everyone came in their underwear. And I'd also hit the punching bag in the gym as part of my workouts as well, where I imagine the bag is like Osama bin Laden or Adolf Hitler, or I'd put myself in the shoes of a Nazi during the 1940s and visualize the bag as an escaping Jew. Just joking. I did not visualize like that. Oh my god, that was just a very non PC joke. But hey, if you're still watching, you're gonna have to get used to my crazy, dark, and non PC humor. That's just how I am. But I am still working on it. I am still trying to make some, very non PC, more friendly jokes. Anyway, along with my gym routine, I made sure to exercise my lungs by smoking copious amounts of weed. Yep, I was a huge stoner back in the day. But I don't smoke much anymore. But there was a point in my life where I was smoking weed at least like once or twice a day, or at least like a gram a day, minimum. And I would go through ounces like every 3 to 4 weeks. I wasn't a huge drinker, but I still drink at least like a couple times a week, but not a crazy amount every time. Unless there was a huge party or kickbacks and there was a bunch of like topless college girls or dudes who pissed themselves while they slithered on the floor like a snake. So, with that info in mind, and now getting back on track to my first hike, my friends decided on doing a hike called Oyster Dome, which is located about 2.5 to 3 hours north of Seattle. I believe in Bellingham, or at least super close to Bellingham. It's also pretty close to the Canadian border. So anyway, the day comes. I have a small breakfast with a side of rolled up broccoli and a swisher, if you catch my drift. And I meet up my friends on our voyage to Oyster Dome. So we get to the parking lot of the trailhead, and again, as stupid stoners, we decided to hotbox the hell out of my car like a steam room with our towels on, of course. And when we hotbox, we hotbox. Like, there's been times where we've hotboxed so bad or so much to the point where none of us could light our lighters due to the lack of oxygen in the car. Like, we were legit suffocating our lungs in the weed smoke and could have possibly been the first stoners in history to die in a hotbox from too much weed smoke. So anyway, once we did reach that point, we made a very tough decision to open all the doors and air out all the smoke. I guess you can say none of my friends wanted the smoke. And yes, my car looked like a straight chimney, or even a barbecue smoker grill slow cooking like 80 rack of ribs and 80 pounds of brisket with a few whole luau pigs at a barbecue festival in like Louisiana or Mississippi or something. It was just bad and smoky. And then you got other hikers walking on by, seeing and smelling it all, either hating or loving us. It was definitely quite the sight. So, after airing out for what seemed like 20 days, we got our liquids and snacks ready and got our gear on and proceeded on to the Oyster Dome Trail. And this was when keeping it real goes wrong. Honestly, I just want to say that, Chappelle's Show is one of my top favorite shows of all time. If you know, you know. Anyway, about half a mile or 3/4 of a mile in was, no pun intended, was when things started going downhill for me. But not really, because I was still going up the trail to the peak. So, I was going up and not. Yeah, that joke sounded better in my head. Anyway, as I was saying, a little less than a mile in, I remember I suddenly started cramping up in both of my legs and I had to stop immediately for a break while my two buddies were barely sweating. And again, as dumb stoner college boys, we decided it was a good time for a little blunt break. So we went off trail a little bit and smoked a fat blunt. Yes, I'm pretty sure other hikers got a good whiff of what we were smoking. And yes, I am grateful that none of these hikers punched me in the balls as they hiked by us. So, thank you all. Even though I doubt any of them are watching this or remember who we were since that was like 8 to 9 years ago. Anyway, so after we smoked the gigantic baseball bat sized blunt, we got back on route to the peak. However, after another like 10 feet of hiking some more, it was as if my cramps came back even harder with great vengeance and furious anger. But at this point, I knew I couldn't stop and I had to keep on fighting. So I continued this cycle of going and stopping, going and stopping, going and stopping, to what seemed like an infinite loop. One of my buddies eventually left me and went on his own, and I swear that man was energized like a crackhead running through like a burning building or something. I swear, if cocaine was a man, it'd totally be him. I remember him being a bit more jittery and antsy than normal, and I don't recall him drinking much caffeine beforehand. So do what you will with that info. However, my other friend was a good man and stayed alongside and hiked at my pace with me. And this was when we had a conversation that I'll never forget. As I was dying, panting, and coming and gasping for fresh air in the mountains as much as possible, he was hitting me with a few jabs in the process. Saying stuff like, "Oh, I thought you hit the gym every day," or "Oh, I thought you gave out foot jobs 10 times a day to the homeless in downtown in the alleyways," or something along the lines of that. And then he hit me with the life-changing question, "How much do you weigh?" And of course, I responded with my real weight. I said around 200 to 210 pounds, to which he responded, "Yeah, that's too heavy, dude, especially for a guy of your height." And for those who are wondering, I'm 5 feet 11. And yeah, I mean, he was right. He was not wrong. I was too heavy. It was his way of saying that I was just too fat or too chunky or too obese, that I should belong on the 600-pound life show, whatever that show's called. And man, hearing that honestly hurt. It hurt like a mofo. And knowing him, I know he wasn't trying to be mean, he was just being honest. And it's funny because he wasn't the only person to say something like that during that period of my life. And it was that exact moment where I decided to change my life around. That was when I decided to start eating healthier and cleaner, doing healthier meal preps, and just putting more variety and intensity in my workouts. Right now, I'm sitting at around 160 pounds, and I have been at this weight for the past couple years, I want to say. And man, I just feel the most healthy and fit as I've ever been in my life. Of course, the healthy change and journey took lots of time and discipline, but it was most definitely beyond worth it. And it's funny because that same friend who told me that I was too fat or too heavy, he's now a chunky boy himself. And he would now struggle immensely on these hikes and workouts that I do on a regular day. Hell, I'd still be able to surpass him on any hike, even if I all of a sudden became a paraplegic who had to be fed 3 times a day by some nurse who is too lazy to cook, so all she whipped up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner were these little Campbell's chunky canned soups and a Wendy's combo meal for $7 with a side of those veggie straws chips that barely have any vegetables or nutrients in them in the first place. So, to close this commentary or video out, for those of you that are struggling to stay on path on your diet and fitness life, remember that the key is consistency, just like with most things in life. Set a big fitness or health goal for yourself and strive for it. And hell, maybe even try to fail at it at first when you try to reach for that goal to see or show how much you need to improve. And I know this may sound harsh, but honestly, it does help if you have friends or people who you trust that fat shame the hell out of you and call you fat or call you out on your fatty behaviors, like the time you ended up eating a half a dozen of Krispy Kreme donuts with a side of a 7-Eleven Slurpee and a double Whopper from Burger King in one sitting. At least for me, having people fat shame me definitely helped, which is why I am a firm believer of fat shaming. But I know most people in society may not agree with me, so let's make America fat shame again.
Hit like and subscribe. Don't forget.